Welcome to another episode of the Dragons podcast, and I'm joined by a special guest today, Damion Lee of the Golden State Warriors. Damion, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. It's a pleasure, and, if it's any way that I could try to give back.
Well, Damion, the men's team making the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1996, the women's team clinching for the first time since 2009, a historic week in Drexel basketball, and I know you were a big fan following closely along. So let's take it back to a little over a week ago, and the men's team's in the conference semifinals playing Northeastern. When did you start closely following them on their run, and how closely did you watch that semifinals game against the Huskies?
Yeah, so it's funny. I always ESPN app, and I always have my notifications up for whenever Drexel's playing, whether it's a good season or bad season. And I was like, all right, there's a little momentum here. Let's see what we could do against Northeastern. Ended up, playing the game against Northeastern, and actually right before that, my wife's school, Elon, the school that she graduated from, they were playing Hofstra. So we were watching that on CBS Sports Network, and then ended up watching the Drexel Northeastern, and we were kind of having, a little running joke like, hey, if we make it to the championship after you guys, then, we have to put a little something on the line there. So it was just great just to see them, get to the conference championship, play Elon, and then, eventually come out victorious.
Well, you mentioned that little rivalry there between you and your wife, Sidel, and I got to ask you, what was that like as the result comes in for Drexel going to the championship game to play Elon, that little friendly rivalry? What was on the line, and how were the family interactions for that day or two there while you guys were bitter rivals in that moment?
Yeah, we actually ended up going down to LA because we played the Clippers the day after the championship game. So we were actually in LA, so we weren't in each other's presence, and good thing for her. Because we did get the win, probably would have just something simple, just cooking dinner or, a massage or, just something light, just something fun. But the funny thing is she was so busy from her work and missed, three-fourths of the game. So, she didn't get to hear from me, but, she's going to hear from me now, now that we're in the tournament.
Well, and I got to ask you too, I know you mentioned to me right before you came on how it felt so good, in your group chat with some of your former teammates at Drexel, just talking about it's awesome to see a team get there. Did it feel like vindication for you, especially from that 2012 team, a team that just missed the NCAA tournament? In my eyes and a lot of people's eyes, good enough to make the dance. Was it vindication for you guys from 2012?
Yeah, definitely. It's at any point, in your career or, your college career, that's everyone's main goal, is to play the NCAA tournament. So, everything happens the way that it's supposed to. But, for us, finding joy in seeing, the younger guys have success in their own right. And, that's something that our group chat has always been big on. And, we're trying to figure out when we can have our reunion, once everything is COVID friendly. But we're so happy for these young Dragons.
Well, and as you look back on your Drexel career as well, and some of the memories come back to mind, are there any games or moments throughout that career that stick out particularly to you? Anything that, as you look back on your tenure with the Dragons, that still lives vividly in your mind?
I mean, I tell people all the time, I think my freshman year at Drexel was one of my favorite years of just playing basketball, period. For being under Coach Brew, having vets, like Sammy Givens, Chris Fouch, having someone that, our games could grow together with Franz Massenet. And then also, vets, Daryl McCoy, Darte Ruffin, even, Steve Manoilovich, and, our quote-unquote Fab Five freshmen with, the other four guys that were there with myself. Just those relationships, those bonding experiences that we had then are things that I still cherish to this day. And I'd say probably my freshman year is probably my favorite year playing basketball. Obviously besides being a professional athlete, but that, and then I think my last year at Drexel, that I had, a couple games where, there were, getting boxing one and, having 20 points or 25 points or having a streak of, a couple double games back to back. And, still kind of feel like I was robbed of that player of the year, but, that's a combo.
Well, I know there's one game against Northeastern in particular. So my dad's a Northeastern alum, so I've gone back and forth with him a lot, where I believe you scored 30 points with a broken hand. So as you reflect on that, can you talk about the adrenaline going through your body, putting up a 30-piece on the Huskies with a broken hand?
Ended up going to a move, broke it within like the first 5 minutes of the game. And, I knew that would end up being, the last game of the season for me. Actually ended up being my last game as a Drexel Dragon, but, broke my hand and, at halftime, you could see the scar right there. And, just told Westy and told Brew that, I wasn't coming out. So I was like, 2 Advil, 2 Aleve, and I'm going to go out there and keep fighting. And, we didn't get the win, which is what's most important. I wanted to get the win, but, just to show resilience and toughness, the Drexel Dragon, spirit, and scoring 30 points with a broken hand is something that, I'll forever take with me.
Well, and you mentioned the Dragon Spirit, and obviously with this year in COVID, not having a chance to watch games at home in any capacity for a lot of sports fans, something that we missed this year is Calvin Hicks. And I know, your last year at Drexel was my first year there. I was a manager for the women's team, so I would always see the interactions during the changeover when they would end practice and you guys would come out of the court, and how cool of a relationship you had with Calvin. So as you look back on Calvin Hicks and maybe the Spirit section, is there anybody in particular you want to give a shout out, or any memories that come to mind with the support system that you had at Drexel and the community there that supported you throughout the years?
Really, really just everyone. I felt that was the main reason why I chose Drexel, just because it felt like home. From top to bottom, from Zilmer, your communications teacher. Just everyone treated me the exact same, and I feel like I did that as well. I still feel like that there's that mutual respect, because I've always treated Drexel like literally the best decision that I made, and I still feel like that to this day. And then going back with the Calvin Hicks thing, it's funny that you say that, because Calvin and I talk probably once a month. He'll call me and, how's my boy doing? And, we'll talk and catch up. And, right after Drexel won, literally right after the game ended, he called me like 30 minutes after and was like, you see the boys, look at them, man, they're in the tournament. And, in my corner, and just always being supportive of me, no matter what, really just shows what Drexel has been and what it continues to mean to me to this day.
That's awesome to hear. Awesome to hear that, obviously, one, Calvin giving you a call, and two, that you're still in contact with so many people who meant so much to you. And a story I came across that was posted about a year ago, and it was an article about how you have chosen in games that you start to be announced as Damion Lee from Drexel. Obviously, you went to another school, but you chose to be announced as from Drexel. So what went into that decision? Why was it so important for you to let the Warriors know, like, hey, when I get announced as a starter, I want it to be announced as from Drexel?
Yeah. What I've been saying throughout this whole podcast, like, Drexel is my roots. There were so many other, schools that said that they wanted me, said that they were going to offer, said that, that they were, oh, we're looking at you, but. And Drexel was up front from the beginning. They signed someone in the fall of 2010, and we're like, sorry, we're looking at going with the center. And then once, Chris Fouch was going to get surgery in the spring of 2011, they came back and recruited me extremely hard and said, look, there's an opportunity for you. It's between you and 2 other people to basically start as a freshman. And just that competition, that passion, and that drive of wanting to be great. And I knew that, deep down, and I wanted to do whatever it took for me to be successful. And Drexel was, the school that was going to give me that, kind of taking that mindset and looking back, like, sure, been on a 2-way, got a 10-day, signed a deal. But at the end of the day, keeping that same mindset that I had when I was going into Drexel, like, I'm here, cool, but no one's going to outwork me. No one's going to work harder than me. No one's going to, put in as much time as I am to get in this position, because that's what it did for me to get to Drexel and still continue to chip on my shoulder, um, while I'm in the league. And you can even, look at a list of guys that were mid-major guys that still have that chip on their shoulder. And I want to eventually have my name in the list of those guys, or at least with those guys.
Well, and something that's a cool part of your story that I read from part of why you committed to Drexel. I shouldn't say I read it. I heard it on a podcast where your mom was being interviewed. She said that other schools had made promises to you to start right away or to have certain things at the beginning, but Drexel and Coach Flynn at the time didn't promise you anything, and that you wanted to accept the challenge. So with that being the case, what was it about your mindset as an 18, 19-year-old kid where other schools are coming to you and promising you playing time, but instead you chose to go to a place where you were being asked to work and earn what you were being given?
Yeah, I mean, you can have things given to you, but the more hours you put in the gym, the more time your head's down, the more adversity you face, the sweeter, and you enjoy it even more. So, there were schools that were promising me to come in and start and promising me this and that. And at the end of the day, if you're promising me one thing and then there's another prospect that may be a 4-star prospect or a guy that's transferring in, who says that you're not going to promise them the same thing? So then it looks like, all right, you're promising this guy this, you're promising this guy that. Not saying that you're lying about something, but every promise isn't going to hold true or isn't going to stand pat. So, it was just the honesty and the dad from day one telling me, look, is between these 3 guys, whoever plays the best is going to have a chance. And as long as you have that chance, you take it and you run with it and don't look back. And when he told me that, I felt that and I understood that. And I was like, damn, all right, this is the guy I want to play for.
Well, and I think your career is the ultimate testament of somebody who has not only put in the work, but has made the sacrifices and persevered. Your story, I know you wrote for the Players Tribune a story called No White Flags. It details all of the injuries, all of the obstacles between you having this dream as a middle school or high school kid to actually realizing your dream as becoming an NBA player. So as you look back on that article, on your career, what does the phrase "no white flags" mean to you? Why is that significant to you? And, I know we could talk about it for a while, but could you just briefly summarize some of those obstacles you had to overcome in the path between going to Drexel and ending up in the NBA?
I mean, no white flags is pretty simple. Whenever I tell my friends and try to use it, whenever you're in a war, you have to think of life, as a marathon or as, a war. It's never a battle. It's never, a sprint. With no white flags, it's just never giving up. I'm never going to surrender. If it's any obstacle, I'm going to put in my all until I feel like I can overcome. And if I fail, then, I'll take my lumps and bruises, but I'm going to get right back up and I'm going to keep going again and again and again until I succeed. And that comes with faith. Believing that God has put me in this position to, have this testimony and have this story to tell. Maybe it's for the youth, just trying to pay it forward and give back and show them that, people like me, people like us can go through what we can go through, and we can still be a light. We can still joke. We can still have fun, but we know when it's time to be serious. And, there's another thing I use, which is small victories win the war, which again, then attests to no white flags. So, I always look at it like I'm a professional athlete. I'm standing tall. I have 2 hands, 2 feet. I'm healthy. I've been through 2 ACL injuries. Broke my shooting hand, had surgery, broke my shooting hand again 20 months ago, and still standing tall and still overcoming the odds. And I feel like if I could do it, then anyone else can do it. And like I said, I feel like God's put me here to, go through this adversity, persevere and show other people that, no matter what you're going through, good and bad, as long as you treat everyone the exact same, you come it. And I mean, even saying what I'm saying, like sometimes I have to remind myself that, like, I've been through 2 ACL injuries. Like, I had one of the greatest years of my career at Drexel, had an ACL injury, then came back the next year and 5 in the nation in scoring. And I'm not like I'm not like, oh, look at my stats, look at this. Then another chance of possibly, I was 10 days away from getting a call up from an NBA team. Ended up getting a partial tear in my left ACL. ACL, bone tear, full tear, complete tear, it's the same exact recovery. So was so close to getting called up. All right, maybe there's something else in my life that I have to get right before I get back to this. Like, I know basketball is going to be there. I know if I put the work. So I can only take it for what it is. Like, I didn't fully lose my job. I still have my college degree. I can still be a positive impact on those around me. So, just taking that for what it is. But now, since I'm here, going every single day, treating it like it's my last, like I could lose my job tomorrow.
Well, and I got to ask you, obviously it's such a grind to get to where you are, but the emotions of that first NBA game and maybe, the ebbs and flows of it. But when you walk out onto an NBA floor now and you realize that you're here, you've made it and you're there, can you explain the emotions of those moments, the sense of joy that you feel, or do you look into the stands and see family members at those times? Who are you thinking about what in those moments of gratitude being on the floor in the NBA?
I could tell you a quick story of when I was in high school, my freshman and sophomore year. My mom, 5:30 in the morning, for her to drive an hour 15, try to beat traffic to drop me off. School didn't start until 8, so I'd be at school around 7, an hour early. She would go work, 10-hour shifts in Baltimore City, then come pick me up. We drive an hour to beat traffic back home, and we do that every day for 2 years. Like, the sacrifices that she did, that she made for me, had to pay for high school, sacrifices that my aunts made, my wife, when I was going through my second, ACL recovery, her driving, 7 hours from North Carolina to Kentucky to come see me. So thinking about all the sacrifices that people have made for me, there's no reason, there's no inkling of me quitting or giving up at any point. Like, people have made so many sacrifices for me to reach my goals and reach my dreams. And it's only right that I continue to go as best as I can so that I can try to provide for my family. I try to pay it forward and try to be a light, try to be, a spark or, any type of hope for, the next generation.
When you talk about paying it forward in the next generation, and you have a foundation, the Leeway Foundation, both you and your mom run it. So can you give us a little background of how it got started, why you started it, and what your hopes are to do with that foundation?
Yeah. The Leeway Foundation was started, I'd say, about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. We were just talking about it. And, it's another thing. It's Leeway Foundation called Leveraging Excellence from Experiences. It's a little play on my last name. It's just about giving back, teaching kids, the underserved, the underprivileged, mainly the youth, ranges from 6th to 9th grade. I feel like that's when, a kid is really coming into their own, experience. Obviously, I had guidance, but, there's so many influences around you from, 6th to 9th grade, trying to figure out who you are, what your morals are. There's bullying. I was bullied during those years. I relate with a lot of what, those kids may have or are going through. Learn how to tie a tie, learn how to use a steak, knife when you go out to dinner, looking people in their eyes. And even if you don't want to look in their eyes, you look at the bridge between their nose, and it looks like that you're looking in their eyes, having eye contact. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm the exact same. And, this is something that my mom always wanted to do. She always wanted to start up a nonprofit, help kids out. But, when she had me, and let's just say that I wasn't planned to be in this world. And, when she had me, she sort of put all her hopes and dreams on the back burner so that I could reach all of mine. And she always told me, when you go to college. It never was an if or a maybe. She instilled those morals in me ever since I was 2. That was all I knew growing up, was when you go to college. It didn't matter if, paid for school, but, just having that and her paying it forward for me to be able to have my dreams position that I'm in, pay it forward for her to basically kind of relinquish reins for the nonprofit, for her goals and her dreams. Things come full circle with that.
I think it's so powerful too. You know, obviously the relationship you and your mom have is incredible. And then on top of that, your ability to open up about, like you said, bullying and that being a fundamental period of growth for children. I can remember experiences in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade about being bullied and how that changed a lot of things for me. So for you to have that openness and to be vulnerable about that for kids, I can only imagine the kind of impact that that has on people at that age. And I guess a good final question would be, as you look back on your career, and I know you probably do this a lot when you speak to kids, but what piece of advice would you give to somebody at that age, 11, 12 years old, who's in similar shoes that you were, has a dream of aspiring to be a college athlete, maybe a pro basketball player? What piece of advice would you give to Damion Lee if you could talk to him at 12 years old, or another kid at the same age who has those similar ambitions?
Everyone's journey is different. You know, have your blinders on, in the sense that understanding that you have to look around, look at social media, see what people are doing. Because, you know, in this day and age, social media is like a disease. You don't have to look at that. You know, everyone goes through ups and downs, and, you know, keep everything in perspective. Your worst day that you're having could be someone else's best day. And just trying to treat everyone the exact same and understand that, you know, in life it's tough, and, you know, you can get emotional, you can be up and you can be down, but just try to stay as even keeled as possible. Don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to express yourself, express your emotions, and believe in yourself wholeheartedly. There's nothing in the world, and I tell kids this all the time, whether, you know, I see someone, you know, a parent talking to a kid, or, you know, just anything, or if we, you know, we're having a seminar, or, you know, something where we're talking to kids, you know, always believe in yourself and believe in those who believe in you. You know, people will sacrifice, and you may not see it at a young age, but people will sacrifice, your family, your friends will sacrifice for you to be the one, because they think that you're the chosen. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up hope, and believe in yourself. Because if someone told me 10, 12 years ago, or when I was 10, when I was 11, that I would be an NBA player, I would be here, I would be able to give back and do all these things, I think people would be joking. But once your mind locks in on something, and you believe and you pray and you work and you work and you work and you work, and then you look up, you're like, okay, there's a little something. And then you see it starting to formulate, and you work and you work and you continue to give back. Anything is possible. There's nothing in the world that we can't achieve without prayer, without faith, without believing and execution.
Dame, your story is incredible. Your pieces of advice are awesome. I just love that you gave me the chance as well to talk about some of this stuff. And, you know, I know you, to be respectful of your time, you got a busy schedule, you got a game tomorrow. So I do want to let you go here, but what's your final message maybe to the men's and women's basketball team as they both get prepared, knowing what their opponents are in the opening round? Final message to them in support of them this weekend.
All the past Dragons are happy for you guys. Actually, we're ecstatic that you guys are, you know, here, and you have this platform. Look, continue to do good, and don't be satisfied with just winning one championship. You know, there's the odds are always going to be stacked against us. We're mid-major people. We're always going to have a chip on our shoulder. But continue to go, continue to strive, continue to believe in yourself, believe in your teammates, and these memories that you make now are going to live on forever. So, you know, go Dragons, go make some noise in the tournament, and, you know, just continue to believe, whether it's now, whether it's 5 years, 10 years from now, just continue to believe, because anything that you put your mind to, I guarantee you can accomplish.
Damion Lee, thank you so much. I really appreciate you making the time for us today.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Go Dragons.